Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to be reviewing the Capstone project poster and presentation checklist. This checklist is meant to just provide kind of a little bit more guidance and a little bit of a framework as you're putting together your poster and your poster presentation related to your capstone project. Certainly everybody's project is going to look very different, but here's some things to be thinking about as you're putting this all together. So for your poster content, one of the most important things is to make sure that you are covering all of your project objectives on your Form F. This includes both the program objectives that everyone has on their Form F, as well as their individualized objectives. And so really making sure that you work with your faculty advisor, not only as you've developed the objectives, but kind of as you're working on the poster, making revisions, to really make sure that you're both on the same page about how this relates to the objectives and your focus for the poster and the presentation. Also, when you're putting together your poster, just making sure that your name, your faculty advisor's name, your site mentor's name, and then any affiliations such as Pacific University are somewhere on the poster. There are templates available that you certainly can use that have, a designated space for this information. If you are adapting it or using a different template, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure that it's kind of clear where this information is on your poster. And it's a good reminder to make sure you discuss, particularly with your site mentor, how they want to be referred to on your poster, what they want their kind of name and any credentials, that sort of thing, and affiliation to say on your poster. Also make sure that you are using citations appropriately throughout your poster. So while of course your poster will look different than a paper, or a manuscript of some sort, you still want to make sure that you're, using citations as needed, including a reference list. And for most, if not everybody, it will be using APA format. And make sure that you are also citing any photographs or other media that you are going to be using. There is some additional resources on citing photographs, social media posts, things of that nature on Moodle, if you would like to reference those. And just making sure that any citations you have in your poster have a corresponding reference also included, that those two match up. If you are going to be using any sort of like specific participant information or other sensitive information, this could include, again, maybe photographs or quotes, specific data points, that sort of thing. Make sure that you have the appropriate paperwork. For folks that have an IRB approved study, you will have consent forms and other documentation that's been approved by the IRB to collect and disseminate this information in particular ways. Often it will be de-identified in some way or using pseudonyms, that sort of thing. There is also the option of a media release form if, again, you're going to be using photographs, quotes from people who have participated in your capstone. So please do make sure you have all of that squared away before you finalize your poster and your presentation. Also, as you're putting together your poster, I encourage everyone to consider how to use tables, charts, figures, and other visuals to successfully put together your work and disseminate it out to your audience. The poster is a great opportunity to be kind of creative with how you present your capstone. It does not have to be all text, and certainly posters for the most part are not solely narrative text. There's often a lot of use of bulleted list, tables, that sort of thing, as well as an opportunity to create graphics, graphs, figures, that sort of thing that represent your work. So certainly consider some ways that you might be able to do that. And at the same time, also make sure you're not including, visuals that don't really have a clear connection to the rest of your poster, that feels superfluous as you're doing your presentation. Everything on your poster should have some connection to the kind of whole work, right? And of course, after you've created your poster, please do make sure that you have reviewed it for typos, errors, that sort of thing, so that it is ready to go to be disseminated to a more broad audience. I certainly recommend having a second person review it, whether that's a cohort mate, a friend, or family member. Always good to have that second set of eyes too. So scrolling down here to number 2 is the poster layout. So you'll want to be thinking about either using the templates provided, or if you're adapting and using a different template, to make sure that it has the needed content, right? And to also be thinking about accessible layout considerations. There is resources on accessible dissemination that I encourage everyone to review that have some good suggestions and guidelines around ways to make your poster accessible to a broader audience, including people with disabilities and other potential access needs. This includes font size, justification of your text, where to use bold and underline, if you should be using them at all, thinking about text and background contrast, those sorts of things. So there's a couple of resources I recommend to check out to, again, really think about and consider how to make your poster accessible as possible. Also, you are welcome to use QR codes in your poster to link viewers to elements of the project that maybe you couldn't fit onto the poster, but would be useful for people to be able to access. This could include, if, for example, a website or other online resources were part of your project and could be publicly available, and you wanted to make them available to your audience. And there's a numerous number of ways that you can use QR codes, and that could certainly help with any kind of space considerations you might have for your poster. For number 3, poster presentation recording. As you're preparing to record a 10 to 15 minute presentation on your poster, remember you are going to record this and then submit the recording to your faculty advisor for your final grade on your project, whether or not it's met those objectives. So as you're preparing the presentation, I highly recommend developing a script or notes or some other strategy that's going to help you be most effective in your presentation delivery, and finding something that works for you in terms of presenting, so that it's clear, well organized, and again, most effective in sharing your work. As you're also thinking about your presentation, it's important to clearly describe using it's called image description. any visuals that you've used as part of your presentation. And there are some resources about just kind of things to think about as you're doing image description. But again, it's important as you're doing your presentation to incorporate and describe any visuals that you might include, whether again, that's photographs, figures, graphs. And this is a great accessibility tool, not only for people who may have low vision or blind, but also people who may have, sometimes people who experience neurodivergency may benefit from this, or other sort of learning differences. So it's a good practice to get used to. And after doing your presentation, make sure that you review the recording, for some basic things, right? To make sure the audio is worked and is audible, and the volume is appropriate, and the pace of your presentation is suitable, and that the poster is clearly visible while you're presenting. So just double checking to make sure the recording worked, basically. And you are welcome to record yourself, as many times as you want to before submitting kind of the best version of your recording. And you're also going to be asked to include either a captioned video or provide a transcript of the video for submission. And again, that's to make the your work more accessible to a wider audience. So as you're kind of putting this together, you can think about what will be easiest for you to do, whether it's to include captions, which can be done through PowerPoint, if you're doing a recording that way, or if you'd like to provide a transcript of your presentation that will be included on Common Knowledge, which is the Pacific University library repository. So it will be included there along with your presentation and a copy of your poster. Or if you decide to keep it in the School of OT kind of archives, it'll be available there. So again, don't hesitate to reach out with any questions as you're putting together your poster and the presentation. And I hope this checklist and related resources are helpful. Thank you.